longest cable car in the world.
Closed for maintenance for the rest. A little bit worrying about taking the dog
Terrifying.
too.
Caution. I thought about that as we were going out. How do you even get here? There's no airport in Sapa. It feels like it wouldn't be very touristy, even though it is one of the largest tourist destinations in northern Vietnam. Today we're at Hôtel de la Coupole here in Sapa, Vietnam. It is a spectacular mountain town in the north of Vietnam.
We honestly did not know how cool this town was. We'll talk a little bit about some of the things we loved and some of the things we wish we would have known before we booked. But honestly, look at where we are right now. I mean, this is, I think, one of the coolest areas we've ever seen. We are inside the pool area at the hotel. It is completely Art Deco, as though it was designed in the 1920s, 1930s. It's stupendous, it's beautiful.
And I mean, wow, Sapa, what a dream destination. Did you think you would love it this much?
I honestly did not know that we would love it this much. I'm so surprised. And I think one of the reasons we love it so much is because it's so much like another place we love, Longsheng in China. We talked about in a previous video, is a lot like Ninh Binh with the karst formations and all that in the Yangshuo area. But then when you go to Longsheng, it's just like here. And one of the reasons is because of the Hmong people, the Mongolians, that are descendants in this area. They brought beautiful culture. They brought the rice paddies carved into the hillside. It's a really beautiful culture and it's super exciting to come see it here.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, but with that comes kind of a challenge of getting here. There's no airport in Sapa, and in some ways it feels like it wouldn't be very touristy, even though it is one of the largest tourist destinations in northern Vietnam. But how do you even get here?
Honestly, it was kind of a journey.
Yeah.
I mean, we took the overnight train, which was the method that we chose to get here, which I think for the romantic aspect of it, it was very cool. We went to a very nice dinner in Hanoi, went to a Michelin restaurant, and then followed that up with getting on the train. So it had this kind of romanticism to it. It is slower and it does make like a perfect 8-hour overnight train. I believe we left at 10 p.m. and got in at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So like that was all very smooth. What wasn't smooth
was the train. I got about an hour of sleep, to be fair. So, I mean, I think it's like most trains. Like, it sounds like other people have had similar experiences on some of the most expensive train rides in the world. So it's not the fault of the train itself. It's just the nature of trains.
It's the train experience. If you have done high-end train experiences before, it doesn't have, let's say, like a dining cabin or anything like that. So it's not a very high-end train. But it was a nice first-class cabin. It was spacious. The rooms were relatively comfortable. But again, like I don't know that it's something that I would recommend for everybody. I loved the experience, and I think we would probably not do it any differently if we did it again. But I do think another great option, which we didn't do, would be one of the sleeper buses. We did see some people that shared photos and videos with their experience of doing that, and that was really great.
And it's significantly cheaper. To get a cabin sleeper bus, it's about $20 a ticket per way, right? So that's a lot cheaper than spending $100 on the train. So that is a good alternative. And it's a little bit faster. It's about 6 hours. So you do get less sleep, but I think you might get more sleep based on how bumpy the train was. So that's a good consideration.
There's an interesting thing about maximizing your trip too, because if you do take the night train, it does give you the ability to say land in Hanoi in the morning, take the night train after you've spent one night in Hanoi, so you get 2 full days in Hanoi, you take the evening train, you're in Sapa. You don't really lose any time versus if you do take one of the daytime buses or you take that shorter nighttime bus that isn't really like a comfortable sleep. Or of course the other option, which is a lot shorter, it's only about 4.5 hours doing a private car transfer, but the private car transfer has the downside that like, yeah, that's half your day, right? I mean, no matter how you slice it, you're gonna have to either do it in the morning or do it in the afternoon, and you take up a portion of it.
Yeah, I mean, comfort-wise, I'd probably say the private car is gonna be the most comfortable, but then you're losing time. So there are pros and cons, but it is something worth considering. We are taking a private car back, and the prices for private cars start at $100. We are taking kind of a mid-size SUV, so they're typically a little bit more expensive, but it can be worth it for the comfort. Let's put it that way.
I think the comfort could definitely be worth it. And if you're spending a little more time and you're not so concerned about maximizing every day, then it's probably worth it.
Yeah. Speaking of comfort, there are so many hotels in Sapa. There's not that many truly luxury hotels for sure, but there's kind of 2 places I think we had talked about being the best options for luxury travelers. And one of them is obviously where we're sitting right now. That's like #1 hotel experience, I think, in Sapa, which is Hôtel de la Coupole, right central, and then smack in the middle of town. goes straight to Fansipan from the hotel, which is amazing. But you found Pao's Leisure Hotel on your trek the other day, which is slightly outside of town, but it looks a little bit more modern. It has pretty good reviews online too. And that could be a good option if you're looking for kind of quiet, more subdued environment. I mean, obviously you're going to be out of town a little bit, but there's a lot of noise in the center of town. There's like karaoke bars, there's sky lounges, there's like bars on rooftops, there's all sorts of noise. So if you're a really light sleeper, Pao's Leisure Hotel, linked below, could be a good option for you.
Yeah, if you are familiar with our channel, you know that we do hotel reviews in pretty much every hotel we stay. If we don't do a video review, there's always a written review on our website, so you can go check those out. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to go watch the entire review of the Coupole, being directly in town has its benefits. You're close to the shopping, you're close to the dining, which is amazing. Even though the rooms here are super soundproofed, there was a little bit of a downside, particularly on the weekends. If you're familiar with Vietnam, karaoke is a big thing here, and they love it.
Just love it. I mean, you know, my voice is not like an angel, so karaoke is not for me, but
yeah, we'd have a real problem if this whole hotel would probably be shut down if she was supposed to sing karaoke.
That's true. I mean, you know, karaoke is a fun activity, but Sapa is known for a lot more than the karaoke.
It is known for more than the karaoke. So as we touched on in the beginning, what's really significant about this northern area is it is immigrants that have moved down from Mongolia and have settled all throughout Asia and Southeast Asia, including this northern part of Vietnam. And those are the Hmong people. So they're Hmong, as in Mongolian. They're descendants from the Mongolians, and they have created this amazing mountain culture here where they terrace the rice fields, and they have just, honestly, I think the best crafts we've seen in all of Vietnam so far.
Yeah, beautiful fabrics, beautiful textures. They make clothing, home decor, I mean, pretty much anything, art, and it is so beautiful. And this is the place to buy it for sure.
So one of the big things they say here too is to go trekking, which we were a little skeptical about because some people described it as trekking, but some people described it as just taking a car around. So I do think it's hit or miss depending on what group you go with. Marin was sick yesterday, so I did go on the trekking, and it actually was hiking. I mean, we were hiking through forests, down muddy trails, but they kind of ask you, like, do you want to go the easy way or do you want to go the nature way? And the nature way is kind of what they mean by actual hiking.
You came back so dirty.
Yeah, well, so one thing about coming here in winter is it is muddy. I think everyone's pretty much agreed that the best season is June because the rice paddies light up like yellow, like all the turns yellow. It's very pretty, it's dry, the weather's better. One thing to know about Sapa in general is that the weather can be hit or miss, I think is probably the best way to describe that. I mean, I think honestly, no matter what time of year you come, but I do think summer is consistently maybe a little bit better, is the general gist that we're getting, but don't hold us to that because honestly, the fog rolls in here so quickly and it's just like, boom, all of a sudden, like you go from, you have a little bit of sun to you can't even see across the street.
But would you do the trekking again?
Oh, I did the trekking 100%. Yeah. And I think the other thing is that, you know, there's a town that's right here, among the town, called Cat. It's unclear on whether or not it's always been among town or if it was kind of created as a tourist town. It's very cool. There's a lot of shopping. They actually charge you to get in, which comes out to what, like $8 almost?
Yeah,
so it's not
for two people.
Cheap. I mean, $150,000, which is not cheap for Vietnam. That's quite expensive. And then you go in and you can shop, you can go to all the streets. And when you get down, there's these kind of three rivers that meet and they all descend into a cave, and it's all quite beautiful and they have these shows. I think it's worth seeing from the perspective of kind of how they fantasize the idea of the Hmong people living. Yeah. But then on the trek, you go to towns that are less interesting from the standpoint of like they're not as spectacular looking as Cat is, but like no real village is, right? They're a little bit more authentic in that sense. And I actually thought the crafts were a little bit better outside of the further towns. So like Lao Cai is one of the towns that's very commonly visited. You can walk there about 4 or 5 miles, I think was how far it took to get there. And along the way, you meet a lot of people selling crafts and showing you how the crafts are made. And I think one of the most significant things is that all of these fabrics are handmade here. They're handmade from hemp. So they grow marijuana and they actually, they fabricate that into these beautiful fabrics. And you can see the women, they hand soften all of the fibers of the hemp and then they put it into a loom. They loom it together in this really tight fabric. And then the most interesting thing here is the way they color everything. So one of the very kind of famous colors from here is indigo. You'll see the indigo flowers that are all throughout the hills. And they actually take that fabric and they draw on it with honey. And then they dip it in the indigo fabric, which is this deep, dark blue color. And then they dip it in really hot water, which burns off the rest of the honey and leaves a white pattern on it. And
It's amazing.
then they stitch and they add all kinds of embroidery and they make it into everything, wall hangings and pillows and purses and everything you can possibly imagine. But it's a really great, cool thing to see fabricated.
That's amazing. I mean, the exact opposite of that experience is Fansipan.
Yes.
We got to talk about that.
Fansipan is very cool.
Fansipan is like,
But
it's like a Disneyland on a mountain
Yeah.
that's templified, I suppose.
templified.
Yeah.
It is a temple though.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of what I would call modern day temples in Vietnam. So they look like ancient temples, but they were built in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the hotel is owned by the same company that built Fansipan. That's why it's connected to the tram here. It's the longest cable car in the world. I mean, it is absolutely terrifying to go up there. If you're afraid of heights, I would, caution. I'm not afraid of heights and I was gonna cry up there. Me and this older man were like, terrified going up, but it is absolutely stunning. We got a little unlucky with the weather, couldn't actually see anything up there, but it is spectacular. Apparently, the views are just unbelievable. It's also the tallest mountain in Indochina, so that's 100% worth it. It's pretty expensive. It's about $40 a person just to get up there, but you can kind of hike around and take this loop of stairs that are not regulation stairs by American standards, but it is amazing trip. So Disneyland-ish, but worth it.
But beautiful. And you
Yeah.
can trek to the top of Fansipan as well. It's a 2-day trek to get there, or it's just a trip with the gondola.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting thing. They've kind of changed the dynamic there, but they built this incredible temple up there. We have terrible footage of that temple because
Awful.
it was the worst weather. So we thought that we might have better weather if we went to the top of Fansipan than what we had in Sapa, and it just got worse. We had like a brief moment
Yeah.
in between 2 layers of clouds where we got some visibility, and then after that it was terrible. And of course on our last day, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Like sunny, you can see the top of Fansipan, but get this, it closed the second to last day we were here for maintenance for the rest of the year, which is a little bit worrying about
This is
taking the gondola
terrifying.
too.
Yeah,
that
I
was-
thought about that as we were going up. But anyway,
You
definitely
might have
worth
to
doing.
fact check us though on whether or not it is. Is it
No, it's
really?
closed for a month.
No, the closed for a month thing for sure.
Yeah.
But I just mean, is it actually the tallest?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I checked that. I literally did. I did.
Okay, because Europe has some pretty
Yeah.
strong competing.
No, but it's true. It's the tallest and longest cable car in the world, tallest mountain in Indochina.
Okay, but is this like Vietnamese problem?
Okay, so
Fact
now,
check us, but it is possibly the tallest thing. It was really tall.
It was really tall.
Unquestionably,
Yeah.
it was exceptionally tall. And the mountain's 3,000 meters tall, which
Yeah.
I think on my watch I took a photo of
10,000.
10,000, almost
Yeah.
200 feet.
yeah, it's crazy.
Quite
Okay, so how long do they stay? If we're telling people to come here, how long is long enough?
Well, so we always err on the side of longer because
Yeah.
we love slow travel.
Yeah.
And we love to explore. We love to experience.
I mean, I'd say a
things.
minimum of 3 nights would be.
I'd say a minimum of 3 nights. I mean, it depends on how long you're coming for. If you're coming to northern Vietnam and you're going to do a week, I think we decided in our kind of perfect itinerary, if you did take the night train, which is kind of a key piece of this, and then you also took a night bus out, then I think you could say 2 nights
Yeah.
and you'd be fine
Yeah,
because you get like 3 full days.
fair.
But if you're not doing that and you're taking transfers and those are cutting out a half a day, but you have more time in the country, then yeah, I mean, I would say
Yeah.
3 nights would be an appropriate amount. If you're gonna trek, which is an interesting thing, like you could come here purely for the trekking piece of it. There are longer treks where rather than staying here in Sapa in a hotel, you can do what they call homestays, but they're essentially just, the nicer set up small rooms in some of these villages, and you just kind of hike from village to village. So you might do 6 or 7 miles in a day or 5 or 6 miles, and you go from village to village and you eat with the local people. And so that's a good way to do it as well. I think if you're a backpacker, that might be more your interest. I think if you're kind of more in the luxury category, I think staying up here in Sapa, there's multiple options. This is obviously the best option. I would say certainly from a hard product, this is a 5-star experience.
Yeah.
I think soft product service and all that has a long way to go, but still a great experience. And I would definitely say minimum 2 nights.
Yeah.
If you can do 3 nights or 4. And doing 4 nights was really
Yeah, 4 nights.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because we did 4 nights.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 nights, 5 days. Plus we had the night train, so we had the full day. And there's weather, right? Like that's another thing that's dependent. Like because the weather,
Yeah.
is kind of like, maybe you have fog,
difficult.
maybe you have whatever.
It's an amazing place overall.
Yes, it's an amazing place. Make sure you have space in your suitcase because, again, of the places we've been in Vietnam, one of the great things is in Hanoi, you can go check out our Hanoi video, there is a great deal of shopping. That particular shopping blends well with this type of shopping because if you do decide to buy a suitcase or a bag or anything like that, you might have a little extra luggage space. Then you come to Sapa, kind of all lines up perfectly.
Yeah. Now it's time for us to head to our next destination, which is technically back to Hanoi just for a night and on to Ha Long Bay.
Yes, and we're going to bring you some Ha Long Bay videos covering the cruise as well as the area. And we spent a long time in Ha Long Bay, so we're going to be able to tell you a lot about what we recommend, what we think you should do there. We did 2 different cruise lines. We ended up taking a ridiculously our own giant boat that we somehow finagled our way into. So lots of stuff. Make sure to go check out that video.
And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Voyager Guru for all of our stories and posts on our feed from our trip. And be sure to check out our blog at voyagerguru.com for all of our destination guides, written blogs, and hotel reviews of all the properties we've been to here in Vietnam. As always, I'm Maren.
And I'm Max.
And we're Voyager Guru. See you out there.